there's like.
Did you bring this?
I did, yeah.
You're gonna ask people that? I don't even know that. You want to sit
Are you
down,
gonna sit?
or you can stand up? I don't care.
We did not practice.
Yeah. No.
This is all improv.
Yeah.
I don't
We
know.
can just stand.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Okay.
You're
so,
the one that talks to people for a living. So.
Yeah, so, hi. We're gonna get the obvious out of the way. We're not from here.
Yeah.
We're both immigrants, and the idea behind this talk was to talk about our experiences, which are very, very different. And so, what we wanted to do is just talk about our lives and just answer as many questions as they come up. So, I think it'd be better if you start.
Yep.
I think
Sure. Just my life story.
just your life
Just start
story.
like that. Hi,
Hi.
my name is
Come on in.
Javi. I live here in Audible. My wife Brooklyn is in the board. That's the only reason I got involved in all this. It is good to be here and talk about the immigration process and make everyone aware of how much stuff we got to go through to do it legally, especially nowadays with so much controversy with legally versus illegally. My background, I am originally from Spain, southeast part of Spain by the Mediterranean Sea. I came to the States with a swimming scholarship. The reason I came to the States with a swimming scholarship is because one of the only countries in the world where you can do academics and sports is the United States. If you try to do swimming or football or anything in Spain, you really got to drop one or the other, become a professional athlete or do your studies. So that's why in so many programs in the country, there's so many international students, because you got a chance to do both here. Well, it might help you to pay for your college. So I came to Iowa Central in Fort Dodge with a scholarship. I swam there for 2 years. And then before I met Brooklyn, I transferred to a school in Indiana called Bethel University, which is a sister college to Notre Dame. And I went there for 2 more years to complete my engineering degree. And 1 more year, I did my MBA, Master's in Business Administration. During those summers in college, I came back to Iowa and I worked at Gomeco with a summer internship. And then just right after college, I signed a full-time to be an engineer at Gomeco. And at the same time I started full-time, Brooklyn and I bought a house right by the school. And a couple months later, I joined the fire department. And basically just working away. And that's most of my background story, without getting into the actual immigration part of things that we can.
I mean, that's why we're here, though.
No, yeah, but like if you want to get your life story, and then we'll start. I can just go in detail on what visas I followed and stuff. So
Yeah, I think that'll be good. One thing that I wanted to touch on about something that Javi just said is that there's just so many opportunities in the U.S. And so sometimes people ask, why would you go to the U.S.? And my answer to that is, why would you not go? And I think for Javi and I, it's just clear how if you have the opportunity to move to the U.S., you take it. It's something that is not available for the great majority of the world. And so if Javi, like had the opportunity to come swim here and then make a career out of it, well, that's an obvious step for you.
it is. You will. They always say the grass looks greener on the other side till you get to the other side. So people here might think that countries in Europe, oh, you can go there and visit and travel, and there's so much stuff to do. But those countries in Europe or maybe South America, it looks like a perfect vacation place to go. But then if you were to live there, you would miss how much. Actually, like even in worse times than right now, but you would miss your freedom and your opportunities and everything that's given here in the States. So yeah, like Brandon said, it's really
Maybe even simpler things than that, because Spain just got like a blackout, like a whole country blackout. Nobody had electricity for a day.
a day. I think it was a little more than 24 hours. The whole country lost power with no explanation whatsoever. So
So simple stuff like that. And in Mexico, where is where I come from, stuff like not getting your trash picked or not having proper streets the right one. You think you have bad streets? You have not gone to Mexico. Let me tell you that.
Yeah.
Running water. I come from a city in northern Mexico, which is the most northern city you can go in Mexico, which is Tijuana. It's right at the border with San Diego, and it's not uncommon to get your running water cut off every single summer for days at a time, because we do not people there do not have access to water like we do up here, and so we take a lot of this stuff for granted. I
Yep.
believe where we are on this side, but it does take perspective. And Javi and I haven't grown up in a completely different country. I think we appreciate, and we are. I don't know if I'm.
I
putting
do
words in your
appreciate
mouth.
it. Yep.
I think we are both very grateful for the opportunity that we have been given, and we're very grateful just
Just to
living
be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Even simpler things. We don't have. Not everyone has AC in Spain.
Yeah.
Like here, the whole house is running on AC.
Yeah.
If you have AC in one room in Spain, it's kind of fancy. You
Yeah,
know?
Only rich
So
people
even
get
the
AC.
smallest things, you can bring out anything. It's just everything that's taken for granted and doesn't look like a big deal here. Once you go overseas or just across the border, you can tell there's a big difference. So
Yeah. So as for me, I'm an engineer as well, just as Javi. Well, we have different degrees, but we're both engineers. And my life was all about trying to make a career for myself in the engineering world. And while that was happening, my dad got an opportunity to come work as a TN visa holder, which we're gonna go into the visa
Visa
things
stuff.
later. But long story short, I got an opportunity to immigrate because of my dad. And so he had an opportunity, and then he petitioned for me to come with him. And the reason I was able to do that is because I was a minor at that time. So this was 20 something years ago. And it's been like, it's been a very, very slow process. And so my story here in the States began just 10 years ago, which yours was like,
7 years ago.
okay,
Yep,
so
yep.
not that far apart.
No.
And so I come to the U.S. Now having a full career as an engineer. And one of the beauties of being an engineer is that you don't have to get like through a board like you do with lawyers and doctors and that kind of thing. So there's like no certification, I guess. Actually, the U.S. is one of the countries that imports engineers. I don't know if it's the most
I
greater
can tell you.
import.
I know that this engineering process or program is referred as STEM, which is
STEM.
science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. This STEM program, when you graduate from college, it can follow a different path.
Right.
So, like he said, lawyers and doctors and business majors, they kind of fall all into a pool. And then STEM majors, for example, just jumping ahead a little bit, when you finish college, the United States, they grant you a student visa. After your student visa, if you're a business, law, or doctor or whatever, doctors will fall into this science
No.
part things. They won't?
No, we'll be
So
researchers.
these groups, they'll get a 1 year granted after you graduate from college. You get a year where you can go look for an internship, and then on this internship, what they're trying to give you is the chance to apply for a work visa. So they're kind of giving you the chance to put your career that you just graduated with, put it to work, see if you would like to stay in the States or see how you like working here and using that degree here. Whereas the STEM degree, we get 3 years after you graduate from college. So it's kind of like a little more, I'm not saying that people overseas got to pick engineering just so they can stay here longer, but if you were to like mathematics and engineering stuff, there's perks to it. So
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if that's the reason why there's so many engineers from abroad here in the U.S., but I know like in the software side of things, there's a lot of people from India, from Mexico, from all over the world. So I'm not sure why that's the case. I think the U.S. has just a deficit in people that like math, like as a whole. So there's not a lot of people studying.
I don't really know the reason.
I don't know
behind it,
either, to be honest.
but you for sure can go to college and find out that vast majority there's a big difference to it. So,
Wait, is that the mic?
yeah,
Let me-
yeah. That's
Should
why I
bring it
keep pushing
closer.
it that way
Yeah.
because you keep walking away. So I'm just trying to get you on the mic too.
Hi, everyone. So should we get into the visa process?
I can, yeah, you can start or
You want me to start?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's no big
I,
deal.
I brought examples. So this right here, did you fill this one out? This is a DS-160?
Yeah.
You did? Okay.
from that one you filled.
Oh
That
my.
one I filled for first time from Spain. That's the
From Spain,
first
yes.
document I ever filled,
Right.
and it took us probably the whole day because there was so much stuff that we
Yes.
didn't understand. And
So this is the first step for the great majority of people that are not born here in the States. So this is an application to become a non-immigrant visa holder. So what that means is that your visa is either temporary or is attached to an employer or to a school,
Yep.
to a college. So I'm gonna
Can I fill these up? For example, what we did, I have a twin sister. She came at the same time as I did to the States. We went to the same colleges. She visits, she's here often to see me in Brooklyn, but she lives in Indiana where I went to college. She has a job there. She got a work visa recently, so she's got her whole life over there. But we filled up a DS-160 for first time. That's kind of your application for an interview in the U.S. Embassy in your country. So for example, the U.S. Embassy in Spain is in Madrid. Madrid is 5 hours from where I'm from. So it doesn't matter where you're from in the country, you gotta make your way to the U.S. Embassy. So first, you're gonna send this with all your information. There's about probably 5 pages in there. They'll ask you anything about your background. And to the extreme of have you ever been related to kidnapping, terrorist attacks, gun trafficking. They're asking you all these questions. You can find them in there. And of course, even though you were involved, some people might say no, but the U.S. Embassy can run a background check on yourself. So if you can either say the truth out loud or they're gonna find it for you.
Here's one of the questions, and I'll pass this so you can skip through it. Here's just one of the questions out of I don't know how many. Do you seek to engage in terrorist activities while in the U.S.?
So you're gonna say no, of course.
Obviously.
I mean, you're trying to get an interview to the U.S. Embassy. You're not gonna put a big old check on the yes and still try to come in here. But that's to the point. So you send this application and then they send a piece of paper back with a little barcode, and they'll tell you do not lose this because you're gonna have to show this to the U.S. Embassy Wednesday. So it can be a Wednesday at 11 in the morning. It doesn't matter what you have, because if you ask for another date to postpone this interview or whatever, that can probably say something about yourself trying to not show up to the first interview or whatever. So even though you live 5 hours away, you gotta find a way to be there at 11 o'clock on a Wednesday.
That's a great point, because I don't think most people understand that. Even though this is the first step, getting here, and getting to the point of actually interviewing in front of somebody takes months, if not years, many, many years for some people. So even though this is the very first step and you're not physically in the U.S. and this is the very first thing you gotta do, how long did it take for you?
It was 7. I remember we started the process January of 2018, and that was kind of late because they try to give you gotta start a little early, and it might have taken 2-3 months for them to go through the application and give us the interview. So I think I went to Madrid 4 months after I submitted that, and then we had another 4 months till August when college started here to get everything done. But yeah, like I said, you got to go there, and there's gonna be an American citizen that's deployed maybe to the U.S. embassy, and no, just like when you show up, I don't know if that happened to you in the citizenship test when they say like there's no facial emotions. There's a lady that's sitting right behind the desk, and she's not trying to give anything for granted. It's just like plain face, right to the questions, and you better answer. And of course, my English was really not good, and so it was kind of hard. But yeah, interview, go to the U.S. embassy, drop your passport. You gotta leave your passport there, and then either if they approve it or not, you'll get it in the mail within 3-4 weeks, I think.
I don't know if it was the case for you, but to us in Mexico, they made us do a physical, and had to take shots. I don't know how many do you had? Like
Well,
vaccines?
there's some vaccines that maybe that were not required in Spain.
Okay.
So once I passed that, then the college implemented them. So they said,
well, I had to do
well,
those.
especially with athletics too. They
Mm.
said they sent a letter from athletics saying, I think I was not missing any. I was missing like the second dose or whatever, and it was like no questions asked, kind of like you got to do it.
Yeah, it was something similar for me. I had to get like 2 or 3 different vaccines. I don't know what the difference are between like the Spain health department, the U.S. and Mexico health department.
Probably really different.
Yeah, probably real different. And I had to do like a full physical. They gave me a few vaccines, and this was all without stepping a foot in the U.S. This was all.
You don't even know if you're gonna make it yet.
Yeah.
But you're still, however many months and years in the making. So
yeah, that's the first step. And even though it can take you months and probably thousands of dollars, because remember, you have to travel to wherever this building is within your country. So
some countries most of the countries there's only one building.
Yeah.
There's only one embassy. So you can be.
So
5 hours wasn't that bad. There's like a high velocity train or whatever we took there. We were there within the 2 hours, but
well, we drove.
yeah, see,
We don't have trains in Mexico.
Yeah.
So I vividly remember spending 2 or 3 nights on the road with my dad, spending money at hotels, restaurants. I mean, all of these expenses that I thought were just like isolated. But when I think back of it, I cannot believe how much effort and money my dad put into all of this. So he could give me the opportunity.
The opportunity.
Yes,
not even the. Yeah.
Not even the visa, just the opportunity.
Yeah, just the chance to apply for it.
Yeah. So after that, what do? You came to the U.S.
So after the application, there's different ways you can apply to come into the States legally. So the most famous talked about is kind of like seeking for
refugee status?
Yeah, refugee kind of visa. What is that called? Islam. You gotta help me out with that word. I don't know how to say it. ASL. Asylum. Yeah. Sorry. So that's one of the main most talked about visas that all the countries are trying to get into, because it's kind of like more granted since you're living in a war country. Then there's a student, and then you gotta be really willing to pay a lot of money on paperwork and lawyers and fees and stuff if you want to come here directly on business visa, or there's like a couple different ones. But so what I got was an F1 visa. That's a student visa. There's gotta be so much paperwork coming from the college sent to the U.S. embassy. This paperwork from the college, they gotta say basically they gotta give all the details for all the financial information all the financial aid you're getting, where you're gonna be studying in the U.S., where you're gonna be staying, your coaches, your teachers, your international advisor. All this paperwork from the college has to go to the U.S. embassy for students, and so I got it because of the scholarship offer, and that's how everything started. So right after that, F1 visa. Pat will get the interview, get the F1 visa approved, and then I'm sure I'm missing a lot of paperwork, little stuff, but
there's a lot of stuff.
You basically then just show up to college, meet with an international advisor, and she's She takes a copy of your passport, F1 visa, which you are really afraid of losing while you're in the States. You do not want to lose that. And then your other piece is called an I-20. An I-20 is your document that states, it says just in 2 pages, it says how much money you gotta pay for college, how much they're giving you, when you started, when you're supposed to finish, the degree you're seeking, and then these papers gotta be signed every year by the international advisor. Make sure that you're not duplicating it. So every Christmas, since I've been here, every Christmas I went home back to Spain. So every November, that paperwork had to be signed. And then you gotta bring with you you can go into the USCIS, which is the Immigration Services website, and there's a little tab where you click, you put your passport and your visa, and it shows every airport you've been through from the first day you came to the States, where you flew into, where you fly out to. So if I go right now, I think it's called D4 or something like that, and then it tells me from the first time I flew into Minneapolis till the last time I came from home on Christmas. So those are kind of like the 3 pieces of paperwork that you're gonna need the 5 years of college, or however many years you get. Student visa, you get 4 years granted for college, and then the 5th is the one I was talking about to do the internship. But in my case, it says 5, but then I get the 2 others to complement the 3. To get it even more complicated, you do your 4 years of college, and then I have my 3 years of engineering, right? But since I did a master's, and that master's was in business, then my 3 get taken care. My 3 years are not 3 anymore; they become 1, because I changed from engineering to business. So I was afraid of this, of a lot of paperwork and numbers and stuff. But yeah, those are the first five years, that 3 pieces of paperwork that you gotta worry about, and then the OPT or CPT is what they refer to as an internship for before you graduate or after you graduate.
So, Javi's speaking about his experience in this one tiny piece of the immigration puzzle. So I got this diagram that illustrates how many different paths you can take to get a green card, and so all of the processes that he had to go through are very, 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 very specific to his situation.
To engineering,
Yes.
student visa, and from Spain.
Yes.
That's only that one path.
Yes.
know,
And so for me, it was very different. But if Javi was from, I don't know, say a different country, it could have looked very different as well. So I'm gonna pass this around as well, so you can take a look at how complicated the whole thing is. Sorry, it's not very clear, it's somewhat blurry, so you have to squint your eyes. Okay, so you wanna to go for a bit? Okay.
You bet.
So, as I was telling you about, my dad gave me this opportunity. So my story with immigration started with a DS-160, which is over there. I had to travel to Juarez, which is the border town. Where is it? Yes, it's in Mexico, but I want to remember what the city in the U.S. What the city on the other side of the border.
She's saying it borders with New Mexico, the state.
Yes.
El Paso?
El Paso.
Right.
Yes, that's a city. No, that's Texas. Wait.
That's Texas.
Yeah, that's Texas. Well, we're close.
Somewhere down there.
Somewhere down there. So yeah, that's where my story begins. I had this interview. We had to get a hotel, travel for a few days. I passed the interview, and then they gave me, I don't know if this was the case with you, a giant folder with all of the papers that my dad had to sign in and that we had to fill up in this big folder. And I have a funny and sad story about that folder. Do you have this folder?
Just a second. If there is any questions, just
Yes.
stop. Stop us,
Raise your hand.
because, yeah, go ahead.
We'll like to
'Cause-
talk.
Yeah.
Okay, so Did you get this folder? With
I have so
So-
many folders. They're all in a box at my
There was
house.
one. It was like the most important one.
I
was
couldn't,
hat-
I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I'm sure I have it somewhere.
No, you don't, because you have to turn it back.
Then I hope I don't have it somewhere.
Okay.
I have like even from my college degree classes
Okay.
and all that. It's all saved up in a box at the house.
Well, I don't know if you ever had that folder, but in my case, there was this one folder, and so supposedly I was about to get my visa, and at this point I couldn't cross the border into the U.S. because I did not have like any travel documents with me, not even my Mexican passport, not a tourist visa, not anything. So I had to wait for this visa to come through DHL in Tijuana, Mexico. And so I finally got this package, and I opened what I thought was my visa, and I was expecting to see either my passport with a seal on it or like a plastic thing, right? And so all I see is just this giant folder, and I was like, what the heck is this? And the instructions were not very clear to me at that moment, because one thing you have to keep in mind is that all of these forms have like legal terms in them, like complicated words that are like sometimes very confusing. And well, I was 18 years old at that time, or 19. No, I was 20. I'm sorry. I'm 30 now. So that was 10 years ago. Yes, I was 20. So, long story short, I was like, what the heck is this folder? And I see all these papers within this folder, but it was like a very, very, very heavy duty folder. And I was like, I'm trying to look into it. And I see my passport in a plastic looking, visa looking thing. It's inside that folder. It has like a tiny hole. And I was like, oh, I see it. It's in there. And so I tried to rip this folder apart, and I was like, man, this is the hardest folder I ever like tried to open. It was like, I don't know what it was. It was like I don't know, it's envelope with some kind of metal like within it. I could not open it, and when I finally could like tear it apart just a little bit, I saw that there was this on the other side of this giant folder, big letters in black that said, "Do not open this envelope. Take this to the nearest border and give it away to the immigration official." So I was like, oh my God, I just teared this envelope apart. And I thought my world had like finished. I thought my life was over at that time. I was crying. My dad was not with me at that time. My dad is a truck driver, so he drives all over the country. He knows all 48 continental states. So I was like, Dad, I'm so sorry. I did not know that I was not supposed to open this heavy-duty envelope reinforced with steel. And so I had to go back again to the U.S. consulate in Juarez. So I have to travel by myself on a bus. It was very sketchy. By myself and give away this folder that was all torn apart by me. And, well, long story short, nothing happened. The lady was like, oh, you open it, right? And I was like, yeah, I tried. Yeah, don't do that. I was like, that's where the story ends. And yeah, so when I was 20 years old, I finally got my green card, which it sounds like simpler than what Javi had to do. But keep in mind, my dad had to work for 20-something years on a visa that's attached to your employer. So you probably heard this visa because it's on the news right now. It's called H-1B visa. Have you heard of it? Hey. No? Yes? H-1Bs? Yes? Okay. So these visas are specifically designed to get workers into the U.S. And so one thing that you may not know is that there are like many, many different categories in which you can fill one of these visas. And so back in the day, like 30 years ago, truck drivers were needed. So that was like the one thing the U.S. was looking for, and my dad got one opportunity. So the thing about this kind of visas, H-1Bs and TNs, is that it's attached to your employer, kind of in the same way as Javi's visa was attached to his school. So if he were, I don't know if this is true, but if you were to fail like one of the classes, you would lose your visa,
It's taken
right?
in consideration. Yeah, you can. If you fail so many, you're not just like athletics. If you don't bring so many credits a semester or something, it can be revoked. And
Right. So that's the thing with H-1B visas, and is that if you're not employed, if you become unemployed, you have to go back to your country, and so that's where that story begins. After many, many, many years of having this kind of visa, you get the opportunity to get a green card, and so some people have this opportunity, some of them don't. And when my dad had that opportunity, at that time, when you become a U.S., a green card holder, let's say Javi has a kid. Well, he's about to have a kid.
yeah,
Well, let's say he had a kid like 10 years ago. And if in that process he becomes a green card holder, his kid gets to have this green card as well, right? And same as with me. I'm now a U.S. citizen. If I had a kid with me that was in Mexico, and at some point in moment I become a citizen, my kid gets the citizenship.
minor kid.
Yes, a minor kid.
Yep.
So that's like the one asterisk, the one caveat. So you have to have a kid under 18 years old. So I have one brother and one sister, and they did not get the same opportunity as I did, because I was the only minor at home. So that's why my brother and sister are not here with me. So yeah, I got my green card 10 years ago, and I started working and living in the U.S. In San Diego, and life was good, I guess. It was not so good though. I could not apply to U.S. citizenship just yet. There's a lot of things that you have to, that the immigration department of the U.S. takes into consideration to actually give you U.S. citizenship. There's this one thing. I just became a citizen like last week. Like, I'm not kidding. Last week was my ceremony. So there was this thing that one of the ladies said that stuck with me, and I really appreciate her saying that. And is that she said, "You chose the U.S. and today the U.S. is choosing you." And I thought that was beautiful, because I think we immigrants do have, even though we're 100% legals, and I believe Javi's a good person. So even though we're good persons and we work and we pay our taxes and we do all of these things, I think Javi will be in agreement that we still have like the thought in the back of my mind of, what if I do something wrong? What if I forget to fill my taxes? What if, I don't know, like, you could get kicked out for like the slightest reason.
Speed, like even speeding, or
Yeah.
like right now. Well, you can keep going, but yeah, even
No, go ahead.
speeding, or did, I don't know, get in a fight or something that will call the cops and get your name somewhere in the system. Your name's not coming out of it anymore, and any background check is gonna show up that you were doing something wrong, even though if it's I was going 75 past audible, that's gonna show up. And if I ever, my naturalization process, which is the citizenship, I can do it in 2027. If I ever did anything between now and then, once they do my background check in 2027 and I have a speeding ticket, they're gonna tell me like, they can hold it against me. They can say, well, maybe you're not as safe of a citizen that we think you are, or it's just the smallest thing that's on the back of your head. You don't want to mess anything up. But kind of back it up a little bit. Brandon said the HB1 visa, it's considered the work visa. You can either get it. The only way you can get this visa is if an employer sponsors you. So that means they got to take care of all the lawyer fees, all the paperwork. They're gonna be willing to pay over $5,000 to $6,000 on yourself, on lawyers. Good example, my sister applied for it once last year. It got denied. She went through 2 companies. One of them did not want to sponsor her. They did not want to put the money into her. They didn't think it was worth it. So she finished her internship, and she had to change companies. This new company, they were willing to sponsor her. So this process starts in, well, you gotta have all the paperwork ready by April, and then April 1st, I think, or something, the transfer portal opens, and all these lawyers, they got to just dump all your paperwork into it, and then that's it, it closes up. And then you don't hear about it for another month or so. There's probably more than 500,000 applicants every year, and there's only 20,000 visas open for HB1. So it's most likely, Gomeco, for example, Gomeco's tried over 6 times to sponsor someone for a work visa, and they only got it once. Every other person, they've been here for 3 years being engineers. They tried over 6 times, 3 times each person, and they only one got it. So that's all the money that the company's putting into you, just putting the application out, and then you jump into a pool with 500,000 people where only 20,000 people get it. And then, so 20,000 people is that for like, if you have a 4-year degree, and then there's another 10,000 people. The numbers might not be right, but I'm talking about the scale. There's the 20,000 that get this chance, and then there's a little 10,000 that if you have a master's degree, you get a second chance. So if they don't pick you out of the first pool, you kind of jump on this one, even though this process is so random that you can graduate from Iowa Central with a 2-year degree and apply for this out of Subway in Fort Dodge and get the work visa. And you can graduate from Harvard with 2 masters, summa cum laude, and everything, and not get it. It's a lottery pick. They don't go through your paperwork. It's kind of like just go in the pool, pick it up, and whatever comes out. So that's what he was talking about, work visa. And your employer has to be working to sponsor you. There cannot be any transaction seen with your name saying, I helped with this paperwork, or I paid the lawyer, or nothing. Everything's got to be from the employer. So that's the HB1 that Brandon was talking about, work visa. Brandon got a green card because of his dad. I got a green card because of Brooklyn. So I finished my college student visa, and then I started my internship that I was talking about. You get a year. Within that year, then I can apply, if I get married to an American citizen, I can apply for a green card. And the green card, it's called, it's just a residency card. This residency card, at first, there's a lot of loopholes, but at first you only get it for 2 years. The reason being is because there's a lot of fraud marriages where people will get married for money. They'll pay someone, American citizen, they'll get married, submit all the paperwork, and then when they check back on you in 2 years, you might be divorced or you're not together, then they're gonna take it back. So Brooklyn and I went through this process thanks to Gomeco, and first off, I couldn't delete any pictures, conversations, receipts, anything that Brooklyn and I have done together for the last 5 years. Everything has to be, so I had to bring my phone and a bunch of paperwork to the office at Gomeco, and I had to submit and give the lawyers over 200 pictures of Brooklyn with my family, me with Brooklyn's family, Brooklyn in Spain, me here, weddings that we went together, just me traveling from Indiana here to Iowa to see her. I mean, everything that can prove that our relationship was true. Then besides that, since we got married, then we got to prove marriage license, and then every single bill that we put together into the house, even the city bill for the water, all the checks and all that I had to submit, because if you miss a little bit and you don't give enough, they're gonna say, well, it might be fake, so we don't approve it. So you gotta submit, I don't know how many we had a printer that we never used, and I think in 1 week I don't know how many scans I made of everything. And I used to we roll letters to each other, and I'm glad I never threw those letters away because I scanned those and then I just sent the letters to, like I said, pictures and everything that you can prove that your relationship, it's actually a relationship and not for the. So we applied for that, and then that we applied for that, we got married through the court because it has to be a license through the court. We got married in January, 2 years, a year and a half ago. Then we didn't hear anything for 3 months, and then out of a sudden they told me to be in Sioux Falls on a Friday at noon for an interview and fingerprints, because they gotta check that you're the same person as the fingerprints are. You cannot be. So we went through that. We went to Sioux Falls, and then we waited another 4 or 5 months, and then they gave me what is called the work visa through the green card. So that meant that while I was waiting for my green card, I could still work at Gomeco. And then a month later, they gave me the travel visa, which that meant that while I'm waiting for the green card, I can still travel out of the country. And then in December is when I got the green card in the mail. So it took a year, which I'm very thankful of, because there's a lot of nationalities, which I heard from buddies from Venezuela or China or stuff. There's people that have been waiting 12 years. They submitted the stuff 12 years ago, and you just wait. You check on the U.S. on the immigration services, and it says 12 years, and it says time to complete the process, and then it goes like 2 months or more, and then when it goes to 2 months, then they change and they say we'll let you know when anything is processed. So then you don't even have a time to go by. So then I got my green card, and Brooklyn's saying I could tell what you were saying. Before I got my green card, I had to go do a physical, and the physical came up and saying that I needed the latest COVID shot. I didn't have the flu shot. What are the other two? Tdap and
MMR, so your measles and mumps and.
So this needed submitted like from now to now. So I had to go to Sioux City, and I got 2 shots, two on each arm, because even though I didn't want the COVID shot anymore, but they said that we had to go to the dunes in Sioux City because that's the only immigration clinic in the area. You cannot go to. I would have loved to go to Shelley, get it done here and done with. But you gotta go to the immigration clinic. Well, everything is checked, and the doctors are part of the immigration services. And she said, well, you're missing 4 vaccines, it's $600, you gotta get it done. And I'm like, I looked at Brooklyn, I don't want to get the vaccines, and I don't want to pay $600. So we said, we'll just go look around. So we went and we found somewhere downtown in Hy-Vee.
I called.
I don't know how many Hy-Vees and Walgreens called.
8 different stores asking for these vaccines.
Because not everyone stores Tdap and all in the one store. So we finally found Walgreens, and
we waited
there.
at Walgreens for like 2 hours because they finally got one vaccine in 30 minutes ago. Well, it was frozen. You have to wait like an hour and so for it to become unfrozen to give it.
And they couldn't give me all shots of the 4 shots at once. I didn't want for 2 shots and 2 shots all at once. So we sat there the whole afternoon just to get the shots, and finally we submitted that. That was probably at the same time the work visa and all that came through, and after all the paperwork I talked about and interviews with the lawyers and just more submissions and stuff into the immigration services, we got the green card back in December 2024. So I got to hold that for 3 years before I can apply for citizenship. So that will be January 2027 I can apply. But like I said, it expires in 2 years. So I got to renew it December 2026, because if I wait that 1 month between December and January, they can pick me there and be like, oh, you're staying here with no visa. Even though it's like probably it's like the 26th of December. In January 1st of 2027, I can apply for citizenship. But if I apply for citizenship and they told me your visa got expired 6 days ago, and you didn't do anything about it, it's kind of like, so we'll have to go through you gotta submit, I don't know, just,
A bunch of stuff.
yeah, I think now we're gonna have to submit kids' birth certificate and everything that proves, again, that we've been together for these 2 years. So yeah, it's not, it's just,
It's
That's a
learning.
lot.
It's a learning experience for everybody. So I'm taking like mental notes right now because I'm going through the same process, but the other way around. I'm sponsoring my wife to
Yep.
be a green card holder. So I'm like, okay, I gotta bring photos and okay. So
you just gotta be nice to everyone at Gomeco, and then hopefully, they'll come in and say, look at that, Brandon, you being a good guy, we'll step aside, we'll take care of it,
So it's good. I just went through the naturalization process. That's like the right word for getting a citizenship. And I have both forms with me. The one that Javi just filled out and the one that I filled out. So one is for the green card. This was you.
Yeah, this one is the one I did.
And this is for the citizenship. So you can take a look at what they ask us. And these are just the forms. You have to, like Javi said, like get all your like different attachments, like your pictures, your receipts, your like everything else. So that's just like a bare bones application. Nobody will ever fill a form like that.
You cannot fill that and submit it.
No.
Because most likely it's gonna get there, they're gonna throw it away, and then you gotta submit all that stuff. I have my grades from school since senior year. Everything's on a box, and you're afraid to throw anything away because international advisor said, for what a box is worth, just keep everything you can on a box, and then if you gotta send the whole box to the immigration services, they can just look through it and
you might not need any of that stuff. I mean, it's up to the immigration official that decides whether or not he or she wants to ask about this specific, like, I want to see your grades from high school.
Yeah.
So that was me, like, when I was going through my citizenship interview, I had, like, 3 different folders, like, all categorized and, like, a bunch of stuff that I didn't even know if I did it or not, but I brought it with
you don't
me.
want to miss anything.
Yeah, I didn't want to miss it. So, yeah, I was kind of mad that the officer didn't ask for any papers.
Yeah, you bring all that. You want to know my grades?
And so, does anybody have any questions so far? Because I feel like we've been going.
Brooklyn filled up this one.
Yes,
This is
that's
called
the
the petition for
Yes.
alien relative. So I'm a husband, but I'm an alien relative to Brooklyn. That's what I am.
My dad had to fill this one for me.
So this is anything that's family or
Family.
relative, I guess. But you're not. It would be nice if they could say, petition for family member instead of alien relative. You're-
That's what I mean by like legal words.
yeah.
They just use like weird words sometimes. Oh, one more thing that I brought. Do we have copies of these? Okay, we can make copies of these.
You have to put country of
So-
residence and everything related.
We were speaking about like all the stuff you gotta do. Oh yeah,
You want to talk about a physical test?
the physical test. No, I don't want to. Okay, so I'll
We
So-
both forgot about physicals, and the wife's got to remember us about.
So the U.S. takes its immigration very seriously, and so I'll put it this way: they do have to look at all of our different angles, and like they have to make sure that we are like fitted to become a green card holder. So yeah, they do a very thorough physical. Let's put it
Like
that
get
way.
on your underwear and stand in front of me, and from all kinds of blood checks. And I mean, I remember when I did it, I thought, I don't know why. If it was held accountable, what I had to go through, there should be a lot of people that probably never made it because of health issues, or I don't know if stupidly you went to a party and did some kind of drugs or something, and it's still in your system and you don't know about it or something, and you show up and that thing gets registered, you're screwed. I mean, forget about forget about anything. It's just gonna show in your records, and they're gonna hold it accountable. So
Well, Javi was in his underwear. I had to be naked, so it was a
Hey.
bit humiliating for me. I don't know why though. Okay.
because my wife's a nurse, and they told him, oh, he don't need
Your
that.
wife is a nurse?
Yeah.
My wife's a nurse as well.
Look at that.
Okay, so we've been talking about like the whole process and what it looks like, and like all of these questions and proof that we have to bring with us. Now, like I would say, the most famous or infamous thing about becoming a citizenship is the famous interview that they ask you when you are at that interview to become a citizenship. And at this interview, you are tested like an actual test that you have to pass in order to become a U.S. citizen. And so
So you get given
Yes.
100. Yep.
so they'll give you 100 questions to study. And out of this 100 questions that are about U.S. history, government, and civics, you have to answer 6 correctly. 6, you get asked 10 at random out of this 100, and you have to answer 6 correctly. Okay, so I brought a test with me, and I'm gonna test all of you right now. So if we can make
I haven't
copies, Kelly?
started studying yet, so
You don't have to take it, but I think it'll be fun just to see how your civics and history knowledge is. Yeah.
Archie is making me say the Pledge of Allegiance every. Well, we say it every meeting, but a year ago I didn't know a word of it. So.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So now I know. I know
Now,
it.
now you know.
Well, I took my Pledge of Allegiance last Thursday, so 1 week ago.
How long did you study for it?
Not that long.
It took me a year of meetings to learn it.
I mean,
It says on my green card, it says right there, so maybe I can pull it out. And
it's not that hard. I would say that 100 questions are harder.
oh yeah, definitely. So these 100 questions, when you go the naturalization process, it's actually one form, the N400 that's going around, and then you gotta submit that, and I don't know how much paperwork you gotta submit. He just did it. But then
A bunch.
you got the packet, and that tells you 100 civic questions, and then get at it, whatever 10 they want to ask it. So
Your child have dual citizenship?
I don't think Spain holds it.
Great question.
I don't think Spain holds it. Like my kid will be a Spaniard because they don't have to go through many immigration processes as we do here in the United States, and because of Brooklyn being a citizen, the kid will be a citizen. If I were a resident, like a green card holder, like with a visa, and Brooklyn was with a visa, that would be different. It would not be after these government going through, I'm not sure because everything changed a lot on the last. But before this year's government, if the kid was born in American soil, it becomes a citizen right away. I don't know if that still holds true nowadays, but since Brooklyn's a citizen, and
It's in the Constitution.
is it?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's changed or if it's born in American soil,
If they're born on American soil, it's constitutional.
it becomes a citizen.
The baby is a citizen.
Yeah.
It's not that simple. I'm sorry, because it depends also a lot on the country that's given the other citizenship. So Spain may not allow that kid to hold a dual citizenship. So I know for a fact that Mexico does allow you to hold both citizenships at the same time.
I think there's countries like India where you gotta give up one or the other.
Yes.
So when you become a citizen, you either take your American citizenship or you gotta take the Indian one. To be honest, I should learn about Spain, see if they do dual or not. I'm pretty sure they do, but
I can tell.
ask Siri.
So you don't have to answer those.
Just look at it, yeah.
But if you answer 6 correctly, you become a U.S. citizen. So.
You have one. We can just talk about it out loud. Brooklyn,
yeah,
you have
sure.
another one?
So, is there an extra one, Kelly?
Brooklyn, is there an extra one?
So I'm gonna ask you, Javi, so you can.
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
If I were to be interviewed today, I better pack my bags and go back to Spain because
we'll see how you
it's
do.
6 of them though. It's
Yeah,
a
just
pretty-
6.
It's
Just
a,
6.
That's a good chance.
And
that-
actually, I was mad when I was being asked this question because they did not ask me 10 questions. They just asked 6, and since I answered all those 6 correctly, I had to pass. So, and he didn't even ask the good ones. I mean, it was all the easy ones. So
don't jinx it.
no,
Because then I'll go back and they'll tell
you're
me.
gonna do all right.
You know,
First question. So, how many amendments does the Constitution have?
I couldn't tell you.
It's hard.
How many amendments?
There's at least 19.
You don't have one filled up with the right answers.
The answers are on the back of the page. So
No,
don't
they're
turn your
not.
page if you want to do
Well,
the test.
okay.
Yeah,
No, it's not on ours.
yeah.
Yeah, look.
Take a look. Take a good look. They're in there.
Oh yes, they are. Yeah, man, you're good at this stuff. How many amendment? 27? You asked that. You're the citizen here.
I'm the citizen.
I have a story to tell you.
Oh,
Right.
please do.
I live in New Mexico in winter. And so there is this 86-year-old lady who goes to the church I go to. And she is originally from Mexico. She married a guy from the United States. She has worked 30 years trying to get to become a United citizen. She missed some of her, okay, so she got married, got pregnant, missed her
Interview.
dates when she's supposed to. This is 50-some years ago. She still is not a United States citizen
Because she missed the one day.
because of all the different things. She said, then I reapply, and then this one doesn't go through. And then she said, you do not know how hard it is to become a United States citizen, because she said, if you miss one thing, you don't dot an I, you don't cross a T, she said, you're just screwed.
That's why all
Yeah.
this money that companies spend on sponsoring.
But see,
Because-
she's married to, so all of her family is born here in the United States. She is the only one that is not the United States citizen.
There's people that will hold a green card forever. So my international advisor, she's from Canada. She was from Canada. She was married to an American citizen. She never took the test because once you pass the 2 years of green card, they approve that you are actually in a marriage, then they give you 7 years. After those 7 years, they check you again. And then after those 9, it goes every 10.
So she is still right now afraid that ISIS is still going to come and deport her.
Is
And
she
I-
holding anything like a green card?
I don't know, she was
Because if
just,
she were to hold a green card and she's here legally, there's
Yeah.
nothing they can do about it.
so, but who knows, she's 86 years old. You know, she's got
They're
grandchildren.
targeting, what they're doing right now is targeting criminals more than anything. All they're targeting is illegal criminals. So what we're saying, once your name comes up and it goes in the records, then you cannot hide from anything. Even, we're saying it criminals, well, we're to the extent of gang members and stuff. Of course, that's gonna be on the records. But you have that thought on the back of your head of, I have the drinking tickets, I've been in jail a couple times, then you're basically a criminal. You've been in jail, you've been arrested. So that's what they're targeting at first, illegal criminals. I don't know how far it's gonna go down the road towards legal criminals or just criminals or
I
so.
just presume that they'd hide her in the mountains in New Mexico someplace,
Yeah.
you know, they won't find her. And I'm not that far from Juarez.
send her down to Booyer, they won't find her there.
You mean Juarez, is that like place?
One thing I want to touch on. I'm sorry, what was her name?
Judy,
One thing that I would like to touch on about what Judy just said is that these processes take a long, long, long time. For Javi to get his citizenship will probably take him 15 years since he got here, maybe 20.
Yeah.
For me, it took 15 since the moment that my dad petitioned for me, and 10 years holding a green card. So 15 years, a path that's only 15 years long is considered a very short path.
She has 50.
Yes.
She has 50.
Yes, I believe that, and there's many, many people in that.
Yeah. and-
Like I said, Chinese or Indian, it's also considered, I might be wrong, but it goes a lot with your nationality. I do not believe there's so many people from Spain applying for a green card as there's Chinese.
Yeah.
Maybe there's 1,000 people in the whole country from Spain that are applying for a green card. That's probably why it took only me a year, and probably there is 2 million people from China. 2 million is a lot, but I don't know, 20,000 people from China applying for a green card. I think it also depends the office. So all my stuff went through Omaha. That's the U.S. immigration office closest to here. But if you can go in there and look it up on the website. If you click the one in Dallas or I don't know, just somewhere down south or like New York or like immigration ports, you can go in there and it probably tell you that the process is gonna take you anything from 60 months to I don't know. It's just ridiculous. 10 years. It
very
depends.
dependent.
It depends where your paperwork gets sent to, your nationality, how many years you've held it. Like we said, there are just so many loopholes that.
Yeah.
I think this is a good moment to get into questions. If anybody has any questions, ask away. We like to talk, so take
He
advantage of
does. He does.
Given the current political climate, are you carrying more papers or passports with you every day compared to 6 months ago?
I gotta carry my. So ever since I got green card, on the envelope it says you gotta carry like an ID. So before that, even though we went on road trips and stuff, I would take my passport with, because that's where it states that my visa. And I don't want to get stopped, and I don't want to tell him, oh no, yeah, officer, I have a visa on my passport. It's just at home, 10 hours away. Oh yeah, we're gonna believe that. So all the road trips we took, even though if it was in car, we go somewhere, spend the weekend, I would take my passport, even though I didn't need it. And now the green card, I have it. I don't know. It's just, I don't think you can carry too much paperwork.
That was me. We'll go through you, but I just want to add into that. That was me, literally up until last week. Had to have that card with me, well, mine, for 10 years everywhere, and I was anxious to get it out of my home and to leave it at home. So, you're supposed to have it literally with you at all times, everywhere you go. Now, since I became a U.S. citizen, I don't have to
Brag about it.
I don't have. I don't have to have
You can,
anything.
yeah.
I don't have to have anything with me, as you don't have to have anything with you, and I feel naked. It's like there's, I don't know. I have this thing in my wall.
You don't have to prove yourself anymore.
Yeah, that
So do you have your little star on your driver's license?
I don't, because I have literally a paper driver's license that's temporary because one more thing, I also changed my last name. So Javi and I, we both have two last names. That's just a
Hispanic thing.
Hispanic thing. Whenever you keep both your mom's first last name and your dad's first last name, right?
So your dad's first last name goes first, and your mom's first last name is second.
Yes. So in the U.S., you only keep your dad's last name, and that's your family last name, and that's
My mom did not get my dad's last names when she got married. She kept hers from my grandpa and my grandma. So they both have two different last names each. That's Hispanic. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that, but my first last name, Ronda, is my dad's, and then Bo is my mom's.
That's the reason why we have very long names. We usually have like 2 or 3 normal names. Do you have just one name?
Yeah,
Javi?
I
Is
don't
it-
have a middle name.
Okay, yeah, I have just one name.
Brooklyn tries to give me one all the time. I tell her I don't want a middle name.
Okay.
What you got, Chief?
Similar, when I've traveled to Africa for hunting safaris, you get over there and you got your passport, then you get a SAP paper, which is South Africa Police, who would go to South Africa and hunt, and, yeah, hang on to those things.
You don't want to be stopped on the
Yeah,
road
if
and
you get-
have to.
If you get mugged on the road or somebody steals your bag in the airport and all that stuff's in your bag, you're standing at the airport in South Africa, and now you don't have a
Passport
your
or
passport or your South African police that say why you're there and what you're doing. You're like,
might as well just go hunt with the passport
Well-
on your pocket and just.
But the only thing we can do is go to the embassy over there.
In the
and
US,
embassy
yeah.
And get something printed before you get out of there, because you can't go anywhere without that over there. So it's kind of the same when we go over there and travel, that you're issued this, it's a piece of paper, well,
Do not lose it.
don't get it wet, don't lose it, don't, yeah, leave it in the motel and go drive down the road. And, yeah.
Even when you do that, I mean, you don't even want to go out for supper and forget the thing. You just.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went everywhere with my green card, hiking, camping, Disneyland resorts. Like it becomes second nature to me. I don't know if this is the case for you, Javi, but I was like constantly for 10 years constantly checking that my wallet was with me at all times, everywhere I went.
I'd like to know how many high school students graduating could answer these questions.
I'd like
Did
to
you
know
hear that
too.
they're gonna be testing them?
About time.
I think so. I just saw it on the news that
Really, it is.
now before you graduate, you're gonna have to pass a civics test. And I think that just came up like within the last 2 weeks.
So how many people here passed? I'm curious.
What?
You passed? How many people here passed the test?
6 of them. You only needed 6 of them.
Hey, congratulations. You guys
Here at least you got. See you, Chief. Yep.
Speaker of the House, vote.
Here at least you get to pick the 6 that you want to fill up. But like he said, you get there and whatever.
random.
I'm gonna go back tonight and just start studying. I have 2 years to go yet.
So if you didn't have a company sponsoring you, how much would it cost as an individual to complete this process?
You can.
You
Well,
can't do it.
if an HB1 visa, you cannot get a work visa by yourself. You cannot pay for it even though the company doesn't. The only way. So there's loopholes around it, like I said. For example, my sister, when she got denied the first time, that was the last year she had available. So she enrolled in school again, and she went for a second master's. With that second master's, it gave her 2 more years of student visa. So within the first, that was this year, then she applied, then the company applied again, and that's when she got it. But if your work visa gets denied, and you run out of student visa or whatever your main visa is, you got 90 days to leave the country. Which, the thing here, since you've done everything legally, your name is everywhere, and they have the date and your address and everything. The thing with illegal immigrants, they come here, there's no name or addresses or anything attached to them, so they cannot go find them or contact. But if I were to lose all my visas and everything, they know where I lived. You know, they know everything because I've submitted it. So all they have to do is send me an email and say you have 90 days to leave the country or whatever happens.
So just to add on to what Javi just said, there's no direct way for like anybody abroad to get into the U.S. legally. Like one day they wake up and decide to come here. There's no way. There has to be some tie with the U.S. For Javi was his school. For some people, it would be their employers. For me, it was my dad. So right now, I believe President Trump, what he's trying to do is like do another kind of way where people can pay to get visas. But as of now, there's no like direct way of. The closest thing that I can think of would be requesting asylum. But that's specific for people that are being pursued or are in like between a war, cartels, that kind of thing.
There is another thing there's called an tourist visa. So when my parents visit, they gotta fill out visa every 3 years. You can only use this tourist visa for 3 months. So when they apply, they gotta say my address, where they're gonna be staying, what airport they're coming in, when they're flying out, when they're flying in, where they're coming out, where they're coming in, and then they gotta say the addresses where they're gonna spend these 3 months. These 3 months are not granted. They can say, we don't believe you're gonna be here as a tourist, we're only gonna give you a month. And you gotta apply for this like you would do with a visa, but it has to be, it's kinda like the first paper we send. You just gotta be filled up, sent to the US Embassy, and then they send back a piece of paper that you gotta carry in. So it's not like, up till last year you could travel to Europe with nothing. But now I think it just changed this year. If you wanna travel to Europe as a US citizen, you gotta have a visa with you.
Really?
Yeah.
Right, right.
I was excited about all the places I could go with no visa.
Yeah, no, not anymore.
Any more questions?
So a few years ago, I was working with a farmer co-op here in northwest Iowa, and they had some Ukrainian students that were there working, and they had some sort of a visa situation. And they worked there for about a month, and then one day they came to work early and turned in their radios and just vanished, never to return again. So with all the checks and balances you're saying are in the system, I'm trying to figure out why someone who is here on a visa would do something like that, because you'd be at high risk of being caught.
Yeah.
It sounds like if you're trying to disappear, you really can't disappear easily.
If you were to give all the information, like say I can give all the information and try to play it as I'm gonna be living in Odebold and I know this address and I can talk to the farmer and stuff, you give certain amount of information, but then one day you leave. It's kinda like they know where you were, but if they don't have any ties to you, you kinda just,
But you could just vanish then.
yeah. There's people from South Africa that come and work for Wallison in Lakeview, and that's called, it's kinda like a 6-month visa, and they come from Australia and South Africa, and it's kinda, I don't know a lot about it, but I know you can only work for 6 months, and then you gotta leave. I do not know, if I was the Ukrainian people, I would not dare to just vanish, and, cause who knows, they could have changed names or not have, cause they don't have an ID, an American ID, they're only here for a couple months, so there's not an American ID. The place where they're staying with the farmer, all he can say is, one day they were here and the other day they were gone.
Exactly.
He cannot, if they never got an ID and all he has is a phone number, all they need to do is throw the phone away and who knows?
Yeah, so even with all these checks and balances, you could get in here and just vanish and do whatever then.
Yeah, that's what
It'll be,
that's what they call visa overstaying.
Mm-hmm.
So you get into the country illegally by any legal means, and then you fail to return to your
there's
home
been
country.
singers and artists that came in from, there was a guy that came from London in 2001, and they just caught him in 2021. They realized that he never renewed his visa. He'd been here the whole time with, well, if you don't leave the country, they don't know you're in here.
And if you're not doing criminal activity,
Yeah,
then you get
exactly.
caught for
There's
it.
nothing on the record saying that you're still here.
So they're taking a gamble that they're never
Yes,
gonna be found
yeah,
out.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Do they get immediately deported then when they are found out?
I'm assuming it's the same way that illegal criminals are. They book them, you know, they pick them up and they hold them until they can get them on a plane. And I would like that's the way it works. I would like to think that that's the way it works, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I've never heard of anyone daring to go against the American government and taking matter on their own hands.
Is there one person at Gomeco that works with you on these things?
We go through Denton's Law out of Des Moines. It's one of the biggest law firms in the Midwest. They have an immigrations team with over 30 people. So there's no one at Gomeco because we don't have that many people that go through this process.
Okay.
So we get referred to Denton's down in Des Moines, and then we just talk to them lawyers for everything.
The ones that come as temporary ag workers, do
they go through that much
No.
paperwork to get?
It's more like a tourist visa. But I just don't know. Someday I'll like to talk to them because you're actually, I don't know if they can get paid. They just gotta have, just like my college did for me, you have a company or organization covering your housing, and all you're doing is just working. You get paid. You get housing and food and transportation, but you don't get paid. You're kind of like on a work visa, but you're not getting paid.
Yeah, those kind of visas are very obscure, I would say, because they're not very common. And
They're not. I just learned for first time. My buddy Jake from Wall Lake, who used to work for Wallison, he said, I have some South African buddies that work here, and I don't know. I seriously don't know how it works.
Me neither.
Because the only way I could stay in the States is if I found an engineering job. It's got to be a job related to your degree. I cannot graduate with a business degree and look for a job in engineering because it'll get denied. It's got to be something related to your degree.
I think we're past an hour.
Yeah,
Yapping.
sorry for the yapping.
If nobody else has any questions, I think we'll wrap it up here. And feel free to reach us and ask more questions away so we can
Thank
close
you.
the live stream.
Thank you.